What's going on, everyone? So today on puddinsfabshop, we're going to C-notch the frame for our shoebox project. Now, if you don't have a shoebox, stick around and watch, because the technique we use you can apply to pretty well any car, any truck. So let's get started. So we're going to do a half pipe notch today. I might have a piece of pipe I'll show you in a minute. But before we pull the wheels off, we need to go ahead and get center marked. So what I did here was down here on my axle, pretty well by eye, looking straight down, I marked where center was. So bring your regular level here, set it right up to the edge on that mark, and come over here till you get level. Draw you a straight line up. Take your tape, find your reference point, center of that bolt to the bottom there on the frame, 26 1/8. Check it on the other side, 26 1/8. We know we have us a straight line, or we're matching on both sides. So now that we have this marked, and now that we know 26 1/8, we can actually do this side off of that measurement itself, so we can go ahead and pull the wheels off this thing. I got this thing on jack stands. I like to get the whole chassis up in the air, give me a little working room in front of my face so I'm not having to sit on the ground the whole time. As you've seen, I'll start right up there in front of the leaf springs, get it up to the height I want, get the front. And then on the back here, you're not really trying to put pressure on this, guys. I try to bring it up just till it catches it, pick it up a hair past that. Go ahead and get whatever shims you need to get in there to get it just barely touching, and let that hair, that little bit that you raise it off, down, and it should make it where it's holding it, but you can pull this stuff out if you wanted to. That just supports it, whereas we do a side at a time. It keeps it from sagging. If you cut it for whatever reason it does want to drop, I don't think we're going to have that issue out of this one. I've done several chassis this way, approximately 12,000, and I haven't had one sag on me yet. I know there are people who will tell you you need to pull everything out to do it. You can do it that way if you want. I'm just letting you know I've done it this way successful several times. So I told you guys we're going to do a half pipe notch. I think I did anyways. Piece of scrap here. This is 5 inches wide or so. This has an outside diameter of 5 1/4, inside of 4 7/8, and it's 3/16 thick. So basically we're going to be putting a chunk of it in the chassis where we cut it out. Sit that on a piece of poster board, cut it out, get you a template where you can kind of see how much you want to take out of your chassis here. And it's also good so when we do decide where we want, we can come down here, put a mark on our chassis, front and back side, find us a reference point to measure off of, transfer to the other side, put those marks on the frame, line this thing up where our marks line up, and we'll be able to mark out that side and know we're identical to this side. So I'm gonna just start looking at this and figure out exactly where I want to mark it at. transfer your marks from the one side to your other side. So obviously, if your frame was full boxed, you just keep tracing it out. Or if it wasn't boxed, you wouldn't have to worry about that. Since this one ends right here in the middle, you can see this gap here. I want to cut that down to that hole. We'll cut that piece out, and I'm going to get inside here, cut that out. There's one little frame up here, or one little weld up here in the frame. I'm going to cut around it where I can get this chunk out of here, and then I'll get in there with a carbide or whatever I can get in there with and smooth down that weld, get rid of it. And then we're gonna tie in right here and box it back to this area. So with all that being said, it's time to start cutting. A little bit of an experiment here. I'm just curious how badass this little body saw is. Damn! That's with a worn out blade too. That thing just cooking through there. Let's see. So I've seen several vehicles cutting out that radius with the cutoff wheel, go back, clean it up with a flapper. Last year I just got my plasma cutter. I've done a couple with it, and this is the first time I've ever cut any thicker metal with the body saw. And I'll say so far, out of all the ways I've done it, this was my favorite way. The straightaways, this thing buzzed right through it. The radius was a little hard to do. Had to go a little slower. It was having a hard time, you know, bending in there. So on the outside here, I just kind of notched it or went over it with the die grinder a little bit, because the die grinder is really good at doing the initial cut, but once it gets in there, you know, usually it'll start binding. So I just kind of ran the shape of it. This thing buzzed through it pretty quick after that, and there's really no cleanup needed on this piece because we cut it right where we needed it. We need to clean this up on both sides and trace onto here where we need to cut our pipe down, but there's virtually no cleanup needed doing it this way. So if you can't afford a plasma and you don't want to do it with a cutoff wheel, get a good body saw. This one does have a little gearbox on it, so it's not some cheapo one. I could not tell you how much this was because, like I said before, this was a gift from Taylor for Father's Day. So he purchased it for me, and I bought some cheapo blades off eBay, like a 40 pack for cheap, and they kick ass. So So you want to set your pipe up in place, get you some reference marks where to trim this thing down to. I like to let it overhang about 1/4 inch. That gives you a nice place to be able to set a bead in when you weld it up. Got me a little reference here where it lines up to that hole. So I'll just put my square on here, get me some marks going square across. And then this one's a little different since the frame's boxed. It's a little further out on that side than where we're gonna end up being boxed. So I got a couple reference marks on there, and we'll cut it down smaller than larger at first, and then trim it as we get it a little bit closer. So we have this tacked up, making sure to leave a nice edge on this side, like I said, where we can set a nice bead. And also on the bottom, there's an edge hanging, giving us a place to weld. So everything seems to be fitting pretty good. I am going to check it real quick with my angle finder, and then if it's good, we're gonna tack this puppy up. Money. Well, we know that's the shape that we're gonna have to work around, so I'm gonna just lay that on there. Trace it, cut it, and then we can actually get it set up on our frame over there. So I was making the template to box this, kind of what I had going on here. Everything was looking good, but because we do have to do some kind of taper down here, what I decided was I actually want to cut this up where this circle is and over. That way I can build the piece all the way up to there, eliminating that, because if I build a piece that hugs that really close right to there, it's just gonna look dumb. I don't want to fill all that up with weld. So I'm gonna cut this off, make a new template, basically this shape, and then we'll start cutting it out of metal. To cut that out, I used the cutoff wheel on the straight spots, nicked it with the, or got the radius started kind of like we did on the outside of this frame, and was able to cut that with the body saw. It took a little bit, but I just wanted to show that it, you know, you can do this kind of stuff with your basic hand tools. I may use the plasma on the next one. This frame dips down a little bit here in a couple spots, keeping it from clicking in. So I'm gonna grind that down, clean these up real quick with the flapper wheel, clean up this radius and everything. And then we're gonna come right up in here somewhere and put a break in this metal to get it out here matching up. I'm using these holes on top and bottom to get this plate halfway across them, top and bottom. And then lined up here in a way where we'll weld on top here. At this point, we're gonna do a transition where we go to overhead weld, and obviously we can feel all that down on the bottom. Hopefully you can see what was going on there. So I'm gonna get this thing tacked up. I'm gonna go ahead and burn this thing in and check in with y'all then. We are notched and boxed. So now all that's left to do is the whole other side. I'm gonna knock it out real quick and we'll take a look at this thing. Alright guys, well that's it for this video. I realized some sparks have hit my camera and now it's like creating little blurry spots during the video, so I'm gonna get a new lens ordered to correct that issue. And I'll be honest, I felt a little sloppy doing these C-notches. I haven't really done what I call a heavy fab project since probably like the end of March when I C-notched a 55 Chevy. Other than the motor mounts we built, but it's a lot different sitting at a table versus crawling around on like a frame, you know. I felt a little out of practice as far as the positions and stuff goes. But nonetheless, they still turned out good. I hope you guys learned something. I learned something new every time I'm out here. So, you know, that's the best way to learn is get out in your shop, your garage, driveway or shed, whatever you may have, and just start doing stuff. That's the best way to learn, hands-on. I bet I recorded this 50 times now. I cannot talk today. If you're new to the channel, please stick around. Check out other videos. If you always come back to the channel and you want to help me out, drop a comment down below, like the video, share it. All those things help keep the channel relevant and it helps it grow, so I appreciate it when you guys do that. If you want to find me on Instagram, I'm on there at puddinsfabshop. And don't forget, sitting on your ass won't finish your project. I'll see you guys in the next video.